This episode is being sponsored by the Next Level Living course, where you can gain clarity, direction, confidence, and take control of your life. Go to christyfexer.com/course for more information. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of All in the Name of Growth. I'm really excited to have you here today, and I'm especially excited to have Shayna Rattler with us today. Shayna is an author and also the podcast host of A God Shift, and also a TV host of the same name, A God Shift TV show. And we had a previous conversation and I loved every second of it. And I was like, ooh, we could turn this into like an hour-long podcast, but we're going to keep it a little bite-sized, let just a little bit of information sink into people. But I'm really excited to have you today. Shayna, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me here. We'll wet their whistle.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so I like to break in with just an icebreaker to kind of get to know you a little bit better, and then we'll jump into kind of why we're here today. So, okay. First question, what are you currently reading, or what is your favorite book to read?
So right now I'm currently reading a book called Normal Christianity. I'm on the leadership team of this ministry, and they're having all of us read it. And I love it because when I look at what it is that I feel like my assignment is in this season and helping people recognize the authority that they have, the book is all about that. It's basically talking about, how all the things that we consider to just be like extraordinary is really what it should really be like all the time and for all of us. And so I'm really liking that. One of my favorite books, though, and I think that it applies to a lot of people, but it's definitely applied to my life over the years, I think it's called When God Says Wait.
Oof.
And I love that because I've just come to realize that I should just pray the prayer of help me to wait well. Because it doesn't matter what it is that I want or in the time frame that I want it in. He's not going to do anything until he gets good and doggone ready to do so. So I may as well learn how to wait well. And that book actually takes you through the stories of a lot of women who have had to wait. Some have had to wait to get pregnant. Some have had to wait, for husbands. Some have had to wait for, wayward children to come back. And so it's a really good book to help us understand how do we wait well when things are not necessarily going according to our timetable.
Yeah, it sounds great. What a powerful message. Okay, question number 2, chocolate or vanilla?
It depends on what it is. If it's ice cream, I'm 50-50. So sometimes I'm in the mood for some just plain old vanilla and I'm like, yep, I just needed something sweet. And then other times I need like a punch. And so give me my chocolate.
Makes sense.
I'm not a huge sweet eater, if we can be honest. Like my favorite snack of choice is like something salty.
Yes. No, I'm with you. I'm not a big sweet eater either, but it's just a fun kind of get to know you. And I like the 50-50 answer. I agree with that. Your favorite destination?
My favorite, anywhere with water.
Yeah, me too.
Anywhere with water. And it doesn't have to be blue. I love blue water, but I'm a Midwest girl, so you can take me straight to the lake and I'd be good with that too.
Awesome. And what is one thing that you do to relax?
Drink wine and take a hot bath.
Nice. Sounds good. I definitely love me a good bath. That's for sure. Okay, let's jump in to why we're really here. And so when Shayna and I very first kind of met and introduced, one of the things that I really loved about her message is she speaks about daring to answer when a better life is calling. And that just really jumped out at me. It was something that I obviously believe in. It's something that I talk about in answering to something better, to believe that there's something better for us. Mm-hmm. So Shayna, I know that you've got quite an extensive background and, you have a lot of accolades and things that you've achieved, but what brought you to this moment? Why are you here in A God Shift doing the work that you're doing?
It wasn't because I planned it. It wasn't even because I really wanted it, if we're being honest. So I've been an entrepreneur since 2007. And around 2018, everything around me just started drying up. Like my successful business, where I was making great money and speaking in different countries, like all of that just dried up. And to keep from boring the audience with the details, it was because I was being called to ministry. And I think I may have said this when we spoke earlier, is that just like those of us who have children, especially if we have more than one child, we know our children and we know what it's going to take to get their attention. And I think God knew that if He would have allowed everything in my life to just go on business as usual, that I would have never, ever paid attention to the fact that I was being called to ministry. In fact, I did, and in many ways still do consider myself to be one of the least likely people that should have been ministering to anyone. And so He had to allow things to dry up to get my attention. But when I started really getting clear on, that's what it was that I was being asked to do, then I just did like Shayna does with everything and just jumped without a parachute.
I really like what you said about being the least likely person, because I think that most people, when they find their like North Star, the thing that they're really supposed to be doing with their life, they feel that way. Like,
Yeah,
I am the least qualified to
yeah,
do
like
this.
minister. Like I
You
don't, I
know?
don't, say, I don't say the words that I used to say at that point, but I'm like, the way I cuss and drink brown liquor, like why me?
Sure. No, I think that that's great. And I love that you shared that, because I want people to understand that sometimes, oftentimes, it doesn't look the way that we think it's going to look at all.
Very, very seldom does it. Like I don't know. I'm just trying to think. I'm going back to the mental Rolodex of everyone that I know or know of. And I know very few, if any. If I do know any, I can't think of any off the top of my head right now that it's gone according to plan or they're doing exactly what it is that they thought they would be doing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really don't.
No, no, my life took it. I mean, so for me, it was always about just doing whatever it was going to be. It was going to be the thing that was going to help me to be free in my life, to be able to make my own lifestyle choices and all that kind of stuff. But the way that it has come around full circle in personal development and helping other people see their own worth
Mhm.
and to ignite into personal development themselves and to grow, um, was definitely not even like on my radar ever,
No,
ever,
one thing
until
I
all of a
figured
sudden
out
it
was
was there.
what can I make?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's,
it.
it's funny how it's like that.
Yeah.
Um, so when we had talked before, we had talked a little bit about how we are really good at filtering our experiences through the familiar things in our life instead of thinking kind of, I guess, outside of the box. So can
Yeah.
you speak on that for just a minute?
Absolutely. So my very first God shift I just told you about, things had to dry up in order for Him to get my attention, that there was something, that there was another level for me, right? But I made the grave mistake that is so easy for many of us to make. And I took that new vision and I filtered it through old perspective. What I didn't tell you is that when I was on a spiritual retreat in Bali, Indonesia, I was given a very clear vision from God of what exactly this thing was going to look like. He told me that I would preach and teach in stadiums, that I would work with celebrities and politicians, and I would have a television show. Now, I just assumed that by the time I got back to the States, that wasn't going to just be waiting for me at my desk, right? But the problem was is that I didn't even give him a version of the vision to bless. I looked at things through the perspective of what I had been doing since 2007, and that was coaching. Like I am the person that you could call me and be like, my husband and I are going to start selling this amazing organic body product. And I would be like, girl, and you could create a coaching program, tell them how to use it and charge $3,500. Like that's just the lens, So anytime you've been in an industry a certain amount of time, anytime you have done it a certain thing a certain way, it's so easy for you to do that. And so that's why I say don't take the new vision that was given to you and filter it through your old perspective. And we have a tendency to not want to let go of things. And I believe that sometimes we're asked to let go of trash, Other times we're asked to be let go of treasure. But why is it that the new thing is placed just far enough out of our reach that we have to let go of the familiar? So my question to people that I work with is like, are you in an assignment? You just need to give yourself permission to recognize that the assignment has expired. So
Hmm.
he didn't say nothing about no coaching. He said stadiums, celebrities and politicians, and television shows. So I could have and should have just taken at least a version of the vision and said, okay, now bless what I put my hands to. But I was way off here creating 5-day challenges and coaching programs and wondering why I wasn't gaining traction.
Yeah, that's really insightful. Um, I know that for me in my previous business, when I was growing it, which it was very successful, same similar stories to what you're talking about. Just it was like the thing, and then all of a sudden it was like there was a dearth, and it was like I actually had the kind of prompting to create a course for women specifically, and that was my first like kind of nudge in that direction was like 5 years ago. And it wasn't until this past November, December, that I started that course. And
Yeah.
it took it. Sometimes we can be a little hard-headed, and maybe it's just a timing thing. Maybe it's a planting of the seed then, and he knows it's going to take us a while to get our head wrapped around it. And so he gives us that time to be able to develop it, right? It could be that too, but there is definitely an interesting aspect to what you were saying originally about he knew that it was going to take all of your stuff drying up to be able to move in a different direction. And then when you start moving in that direction and you think, well, this is how it's going to be because this is what I know, obviously, like this would make sense that we just like shifted into this gear, that it was like, no, that's not what I said.
Only thing
You're
I
not
did was
listening.
take the sign off of the old thing and try to put it on the new thing. The new thing
Yeah.
wasn't ever intended to look anything like the old and the familiar, but we're
Yeah.
creatures of habit. And again, I'd been in that world since 2007. So it's like, oh, I heard you and I saw it, but look what I did. I still relied on what was familiar. And for me, it wasn't about being comfortable or, not wanting to move into
Right.
something new. I wasn't full of fear and doubt. I just did what I knew. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really take the time to go, this is not anywhere near in alignment with what it was that I was told and what it was that I saw.
That was like my first child versus my second child. It's
Yeah.
like, when you get your first one, you're like, oh, I got this figured out. And then your second one comes and you're like, whoa, you are nothing like the first one. And now I
Yeah.
have to relearn how to parent. And it's true of situations in life as well. It's so true.
Yeah.
So tell me, in all of your experience with what you're doing at a God Shift, when you're talking about how people can have those moments in their lives where they have them, what have you found? Like, okay, so some of those types of things can definitely be like a 2x4 upside the head, right? It's like you cannot mistake what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that for some people, though, it's more of like a quiet walk in the park, like it's just a little bit of a nudging. So, what have you found for people, like if somebody was, maybe in their life looking for more purpose and more something that they could do that they would enjoy, and maybe they're open to it being radically different than what they're currently doing? How do you feel like most people that you talk to, that moment comes for them?
Yeah. Two different things. One, purpose leaves clues. And so when I think back about my own life, and let me just say this, I see so many people that use 4 words interchangeably, like they're synonyms and they're completely different. Assignment, calling, purpose, and destiny. So let's just clear that up for a second. Your assignment is who you help, and that could change with the seasons, right?
Mm,
Your calling is how you help them. What do you do to help them? Are you a coach? Are you a speaker? Are you a preacher? Are you what do you do to help them, right? Your purpose is why you're here, and your destiny is where your purpose takes you.
mm,
So when I say purpose leaves clues, when I look back at my life, as a young child, I don't even know if I was quite a teenager yet, but I volunteered at a nursing home. And I volunteered in the activities department, but one of my favorite things to do was go into the room of a woman who was bedbound and ask her, if you could be doing anything, what would it be? And then the next time I came back, I would have found a book that I could read to her about what it is that she said. So it was almost like I was taking her to the place that she wanted to go,
That's
right?
awesome.
Then I became a physical therapist and I helped people to improve their lives that way. Then I became a business coach and I made their dreams become a reality. Now I'm in the faith-based world and I'm teaching people how to chase destiny. So all of those were different assignments, but my purpose has never changed. My purpose has always been to make people's dreams come true. Whether you were stuck in a bed and couldn't get out, whether you'd broken your hip and you needed to walk again so you could go to your granddaughter's graduation, whether you were trying to grow your business or whether you're trying to get this thing called life and destiny and purpose right, my purpose has never ever changed, but my assignment changed. So
Yeah.
just imagine if I would have been hell bent on staying a therapist. I would have never been able to get into my own level of destiny, let alone help people like your listeners be able to get in theirs. So it goes back again to the question is there an assignment that has expired that you need to give yourself permission to let go of it? Because your calling hasn't changed, your purpose hasn't changed, you haven't missed it, you didn't hear wrong. It's just that your purpose leaves clues. So, number one, look back at your life and see what clues has purpose left. Number two, I think where your passions and your pains and frustrations intersect, your purpose is usually buried in there somewhere. So the things that we complain about, the things that we would love to change, the things that we would love to do for free, the things people pick our brains about. Like, I think all of those things are indications of what it is that we're here, what it is that
Mm.
we're here to do.
I love that you distinguished that you laid that out. I was thinking, oh my gosh, wait, I need better notes and I don't have enough room here. And then I'm like, I'm recording this. It's okay.
You can go back and listen,
It was that good. It was that good. I was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And I agree that it leaves clues. And I like the part where you said that what is the thing that people keep asking you advice about, or the thing that people are like, wow, you're a natural at that. And it's not necessarily the thing that you're doing as a profession. Like, yeah, you can be good at
because
that
we
thing
discount
too.
it. We discount it because it's who we are. It's who
Yeah.
we are. It's what we do. It comes so easy to us, and other people recognize it. But we don't even really, if we had to sit down and write out a playbook or even a recipe, like for those of us who are cooks,
Hmm.
my ex-sister-in-law on Facebook, everybody's always asking her, how did you make that? She goes, I can only tell you what's in it. I can't tell you anything about measurements or whatever because this is just who I am and this is just what I do.
Right.
So it's the same thing with your purpose. If you had to sit down and write the recipe for your purpose, you would have to go, I actually have to stop and think about what it is that I do because it's something that you've never had to think about. You do it in your subconscious.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I think that that was the thing for me. So when I had my previous business, you know, and it was really great. It was a wellness business, and I taught other women how to create their own wellness business. And I mean, that was all fine and well, except for the thing that really lit me up was having them really identify and acknowledge that they had an ability within themselves to do something greater. And
Yeah.
every time I would have that conversation, I'm like, that's just what I want to do every day. I just want to help women be able to understand their divine worth and that they have more to give than what they've boxed themselves into, which is obviously now why we're having this discussion, right?
Yeah,
Why we're here.
I was just gonna say, like, when you say that the title of this episode is daring to answer when a better life is calling, that's the key, is unlocking the authority that we have, right?
Mhm.
I think so many of us, the reason why we're not really doing what it is that we should be doing or what's really going to fulfill us, especially for the next season, is because we're looking everywhere else to make it happen. We're
Yeah.
looking to God to make it happen. We're looking to Google to make it happen. But the authority rests in us.
Mm.
You have to unlock the authority that you have. Everyone is not a Christian, but when I think about the reason why Jesus was able to die was because he left the power with us. He says, greater works than these are you going to do because I'm going with the Father, right? Like, I'm out. I've done what I'm going to do. My little 3.5 year ministry. I hope it blessed you. And all of the miracles, signs, and wonders that I performed, I'm giving you the same authority. So we actually have the authority to speak to things and give them life. We actually have the authority to make things happen, but we're always looking at outside sources to get us to who we need to be and where it is that we need to be. And it's so unnecessary.
So how do you, I agree. So how do you give somebody advice on how they can actually make that shift in their own life
Yeah.
in recognizing what that is and how they can
Yeah.
move from a place of it's all without me
Yeah.
to it's within me?
Yeah. So number one, stop asking, what are you supposed to do? Right? The number one question that we have to ask ourselves is, who do we need to become? Like, that's why we're called human beings and not human doings. So I think that if we focus on becoming, in my book, I say that the definition of becoming is, shedding your weaknesses and adopting character traits that you don't currently possess, right? So if we ask ourselves, like, what role am I supposed to play in the earth? Because we're never going to be given anything to do that our shoulders can't carry.
Right.
Right? We're never going to be given cash that our character can't, can't handle, whatever the case may be. And so when we ask ourselves, what are the areas of our lives that we need to focus on developing that is going to allow us to become the highest and best version of ourselves? Normally, we either attract the doing to us, or it just automatically takes care of itself. So that's number one, is that we have to really focus on being more so than doing. Because here's the problem with doing. Now you got to try to figure out the how. And the how is none of your business. But if you focus on who you need to become, I promise you that when you become committed to that, the how shows up. Like, so forget about the how, continue to take steps forward, even if they're laced with uncertainty. But then we have to recognize to watch our mouth. We have to watch our mouth in two different ways. We have to recognize, number one, that we need to continue to speak what it is that we see until we see what it is that we've said. Persist until it happens. Like, keep speaking until you see in the physical manifestation of your life what it is that you see in your mind. Right? So you're like, this is who I need to become. This is what I want to do. This is the vision that I've been having. Continue to speak life into that thing until you see it. So that's very important. And then making sure that the words that come out of your mouth are not canceling out what it is that you're speaking for, what it is that you're praying for, in very, very common ways that most of us think have no power. I heard somebody, kid you not, pray a prayer a couple of weeks ago and said, Lord, I thank you that you're always going to, I'm paraphrasing, but they said something to the fact about, I thank you that you're always going to give me everything that I need to meet my needs, because we know this gas is high. You just canceled it out. You know what I mean? So it's not that the gas is not high. It's not that the housing market is not crazy. Those are realities, but allowing those things to come out of your mouth actually cancel out what it is that you're believing for. Right? So one of my mentors tells me that he and his wife don't even joke about things that they don't want to happen, because that's just how powerful our thoughts and our words are, that he's not even about to joke about something that he doesn't really want to happen, because lo and behold, you'll look up and what you were joking about, what you thought was just a joke or what you thought was just a whatever, is smack dab reality in your life.
Yeah. I actually had an experience once with a woman that I had been coaching. We had gone over to her house. We were out on the East Coast and went to visit. And her husband had said a prayer and he said, thank you for blessing us with what we need and not with what we want. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, so there was this story that I had heard once about this. It's like obviously an illustration, right? But a man boards a cruise ship, and he doesn't realize that all of the food and activities and everything are all provided for him. And so he takes like his cans of beans with him and, some snacks that he can have on this cruise ship. And he like sits in his room and eats his cans of beans and, just skirts by on this cruise at the bare minimum. And on the very last day, one of the workers for the ship came and said, how did you like the meals? What was your favorite part? And he was like, oh, I didn't eat any of the meals. I can't afford any of that. And he was like, it's all included. You already paid for it. And it was, I mean, a total message of living below the means, living below the blessing that we can have in our life, that God wants for you what you want for yourself. And if we are always looking for ways to cheapen our life or dampen our spirit or our light, that we can do that. You can live in that life. But, you know, I love what you're doing in helping people understand that they don't have to,
Yeah.
that
One of
it's
the
all included.
Yeah, well, one of the things that you just said, and this is I'm saying the exact same thing, but this is the way that I always choose to word it. God will allow you to settle on whatever level you want to settle on.
Yes. Yes.
He's
Amen.
not he's not going to force you to come up to where he is.
Right.
So whatever level you want to settle on, he's going to let you.
Yep. My
He's
husband and I have
he's
had that
going to have what's
conversation.
available for you and let you know that you can have it, that I want you to have life and have it more abundantly. But if you want to settle on the level that you're at, he's not going to come drag you up to where you could be.
No,
I
no,
hope
not
that
at all.
smacks somebody like right in the back of the head.
No, it's true. I've had this kind of realization the older I get, because one of the things that I was always afraid of when when my husband and I were very first married, finances were extremely tight, despite both of us working full time. And it was not the situation I wanted to be in, nor I didn't want to work full time. I didn't want to send my kids to the babysitter. And I certainly didn't want things to be, financially tight. And it was like, what? I didn't work my whole life to get to a point where like, this is it, and I wanted something else. And so I just kept working and created the thing that I really wanted. And I remember a couple of years ago driving. So we lived in Texas for a time. And I remember driving on this back road and I came across this trailer court. And I was like, why am I so blessed to be able to live in a house? And, like, it's not about possessions, right? But we had like a pool and a nice house and all this acreage. And, it was just a really great place to be. But then there was somebody else who was living in, this trailer, and which I'm not throwing shade, please understand that, because I was raised in a trailer. It was just the moment that I asked the question, the answer I got was because you wanted something different and you were willing to believe it and go after it. Right. And it was a powerful moment for me to realize that not everybody wants what I want.
Exactly.
Some people are happy there, and that's fine.
And some people like talking about it and some people like praying about it, but not everybody likes doing anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really liked what you said about who are you becoming? I have a course, and the very first section is all about who do you want to be?
Yeah.
And which I think nobody asks themselves.
That's the most important, because if you took that out, none of the other, modules, if you will, that you teach, they're not going to be able to make it happen. Because guess what? If just the doing and the how to was all there was to it, don't you know that there's this powerful thing out there, if you've never heard of it, it's called Google. Like, only thing any of us would have to do is just Google it and we'd have it, we'd be it, we'd do it. Like, but it's not about that, because nothing is going to be given to you that you do not have the character, the personality, you're not the person. Like, I was, back when I was in the business world, we used to always be told that because I poo-pooed on personal development. I was the person that was like, this was not on the sales sheet. Like, this was not the promise of the weekend. We're supposed to be learning sales pages. And why are we sitting here for the first 30 minutes, putting our feet on the floor and talking about what kind of light we see? Like, this is dumb as hell. Like, why do I have to do all of this? Like, when are we going to talk about the landing page? When are we going to talk about the marketing? And, I finally came to realize that our business is never going to grow beyond the capacity of who we are. But I hated personal development. It seemed stupid to me. I was like, I don't see a color, and no, I'm not taking my shoes off. I'm not here for that. Oh. But I realized, like, there's some of those things that I still don't necessarily, some of the tactics that I don't subscribe to. But personal development is so key. So for those of you who are listening, who are career people or who are business people, I hope you're not poo-pooing on the personal development and who do you need to become, because it's all about capacity and very little about desire.
Oh, man, you took the words right out of my mouth, because that seriously was me. My husband came across Anthony Robbins like 15 years ago and was just like, whoa, this is amazing. And I'm like, oh, that's good for you. I don't need any of that. Like I'm over here, I'm busy, doing things.
I'm not going to be chanting and yelling and all that dumb stuff. Like,
Yeah. And then, here, full circle, let's talk about growth. Let's talk about, how we can get to the next place.
And then here we are, the ones that are teaching other people how to do it. And we were the main ones. I would be sitting in the seminar like this.
Oh, amen. Me too. I would have been sitting next to you with the same look on my face.
What's wrong with her? I don't want any of this. I'm not chanting, I'm not yelling. I'm not jumping up. I'm not screaming, yes, yes. I'm not doing any of that. It's dumb.
Oh, we are two peas in a pod. That is so funny. Yeah. Amen. Okay. Yes. Okay. I just thank you for coming on the show and for sharing your wisdom and really like the tips to like understand the difference between your assignment and your purpose. I loved that you said all of those things, and that life can be laced with uncertainty, and that it is important to still take that step, even if it feels scary. And I teach people that all the time. It's okay to be scared. Courage is actually being scared and doing it anyways. Yeah.
Do it scared.
So Shayna, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and yourself. And I just have to say, I honor what you're doing. I know that, going out into, a brave new world, really, and doing something totally different than what you ever thought you were going to be doing is probably a whole other conversation about just being brave and trusting.
Yeah.
But I just love what you're doing and how you've showed that example for other people to be able to do the same thing in their life. So thank you.
You're welcome. Can I give your audience a free gift?
Yes.
So there's actually 4 shifts that are required, right? So if you want to really dare to answer this life that's calling you, there's actually 4 shifts that are required. Becoming is the very first one. But I talk about all 4 of them in this free guide that I wrote, and it's called When God Says Shift. And, if God is not your jam, just ignore the word God. It's all the same thing. Here's what I know for sure. I happen to be a God's girl, but here's what I know for sure. The universal principles that are out there apply and occur regardless of what it is that you want to believe. You know what I mean? And so, I encourage people all the time to look beyond what our preferences are and look at principles, because universal principles are going to happen in your life and are at work in your life regardless of what it is that you want to believe. But in this free guide, I actually cover the 4 shifts that are required in order for you to shift into a greater destiny, more possibility and expectancy. And they can get that at godsayshift.com.
Brilliant.
Shift.com.
Perfect. And I will include that in the show notes and the YouTube description as well. Thank you for that. I think that they will really enjoy being able to have access to that. So thanks for providing that for them. And thanks for coming on our show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yep. We will talk to you later.
Bye, everybody.